you feel the shift. The texts slow down. The warmth fades. She's not as present, not as invested, and you can sense her slipping. And in that moment, most men panic. They chase, they overcommunicate, they try to fix things fast. But here's the truth. When a woman pulls away, doing less is often more powerful than doing more. Because how you respond in that moment determines how she sees you from that point on. This isn't the time to react emotionally. It's the time to stand firm, to remind her, without saying a word, that you are not a man who begs for love. You are a man who commands respect. So what should you do instantly when she pulls away? Let's break it down. When she pulls away, your first instinct might be to react. Text her more, call her, ask what's wrong, try to fix it. That reaction comes from fear. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear that you did something wrong. But here's the hard truth. Emotional reactions are the fastest way to lose her respect and attraction. The more you act out of panic, the more she feels your neediness. And the more she feels that neediness, the less desire she feels. Attraction thrives in strength, not in desperation. That's why the very first thing you need to do when you notice her pulling away is to center yourself. Stop. Breathe. Disconnect from the story you're telling yourself and get back into your body. Ask yourself, am I responding from strength or reacting from fear? This pause is powerful. It puts you back in control. You're no longer a slave to your emotions. You're observing them, managing them, and choosing how to move forward. Remember, your emotional control is one of the most attractive things about you as a man. It's what signals to her, this man can handle life. He doesn't break under pressure. That's the kind of presence that makes women feel safe and drawn in. If she's pulling away and you remain calm, focused, and unshaken, she notices. She might not say anything, but she feels it. And it challenges her assumptions. She expected you to chase. She expected you to react. But when you don't, when you hold your frame, it triggers curiosity, and sometimes even regret. Masculine, calm is your foundation. It tells her and the world that your emotional stability isn't dependent on her actions. And that kind of man, he's rare, he's unforgettable, and he always stands out. When a woman begins to pull away, many men try to close the gap by pushing harder, calling more, texting more, trying to reinitiate closeness. But that rarely works. In fact, it often makes things worse. The more you chase, the more she feels pressure, and the more space she wants. That's why the smartest move you can make is to pull back, not out of bitterness or as a mind game, but with calm, deliberate purpose. You're not punishing her. You're protecting your own energy. Pulling back doesn't mean cutting her off or acting cold. It means matching her pace with dignity. If she becomes distant, you allow that distance to exist without chasing it down. You focus inward instead of outward. By stepping back, you're silently communicating something powerful. I respect your space, and I value mine. That kind of self-respect doesn't repel attraction. It builds it. People often realize the value of someone when they feel their absence. When you remove your attention, she feels the shift. She starts to wonder, why isn't he reacting? Why isn't he chasing? And in that space, she's given the room to reflect on what she feels for you. Often, that's the very thing that reactivates her interest. This isn't about manipulation. It's about responding with strength instead of fear. You're not stepping back to make her miss you. You're stepping back because you refuse to beg for connection. That quiet withdrawal sends a louder message than any words could. It says, I'm not here to convince you to value me. I know my worth. By pulling back with purpose, not pettiness, you maintain your dignity, your peace, and your power. And in doing so, you create the conditions for true, lasting attraction to either return or make room for someone who truly sees you. When she pulls away, the worst thing you can do is abandon your masculine center and spiral into self-doubt or obsessive thinking. The best thing you can do is reinforce your masculine frame. That means returning to your mission, your values, and the core routines that keep you grounded. Masculine energy is built on purpose. It's about having direction, structure, and discipline in your life, regardless of who comes or goes. When you lean into that energy, you naturally become more attractive, not less. A lot of men let their identity get too wrapped up in a woman. They make her the center of their emotional world. So when she distances herself, they collapse because they've lost their anchor. But the man who remains connected to his purpose, whether it's building his business, mastering a skill, or staying committed to his health, doesn't lose himself just because someone else pulls back. Instead, he doubles down on what makes him strong. Your masculine frame is how you carry yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically. It's the energy that says, I'm in control of my life. I lead myself first. When you reinforce that frame, especially during emotional challenges, it sends a clear message. You're not shaken by uncertainty. That confidence, even in silence, speaks volumes. Women are deeply drawn to a man who doesn't fold under emotional pressure. When she senses that your energy stays consistent regardless of her behavior, it creates a sense of trust and intrigue. She may not even consciously understand why, but she feels safer, more curious, and even more drawn in. So when she pulls away, don't chase. Reinforce your foundation. Stay on mission. Keep building your world. Because the man who leads himself is the man women want to follow and rarely want to leave. When she starts to pull away, the natural urge is to reach out more, to call, text, and try to rekindle the connection. But in doing that, most men push even further away the very thing they want to bring closer. Women don't respond to pressure. They respond to presence. And sometimes, the most powerful form of presence is stillness. Not silence born from anger or punishment, but silence rooted in strength. When you stop chasing and simply be, your energy shifts from needy to grounded. And that shift is felt deeply. Chasing signals fear. It tells her you're uncomfortable with space, uncomfortable with uncertainty, and maybe even uncomfortable with yourself. But when you let her go, without drama, without resentment, you create a moment that challenges her. She expected you to panic. She expected you to beg. But you didn't. Instead, you stayed calm, composed, and focused on your life. That unexpected restraint forces her to reconsider. Not because you're manipulating her, but because you've demonstrated emotional maturity, something that's rare and attractive. Attraction isn't built in words, it's built in energy. When you stop forcing connection and allow it to flow, naturally, you become more magnetic. She starts to wonder what's going on in your world. Why didn't you reach out? Why are you so calm? That curiosity can pull her back stronger than any message ever could. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop proving. You let your grounded presence do the work. When she pulls away and you respond by standing still, staying focused, and trusting your value, you hold power. And in that calm confidence, you don't just keep your dignity, you often reawaken her desire. Because stillness speaks in a way that desperation never can. So when she pulls away, don't chase, beg, or collapse. Stand still, stand strong. Because in that moment of silence, when you choose self-respect over desperation, she feels it deeper than any text or call ever could. And the man who stays grounded when others would fall apart, that's the man she comes back for.